I also take issue with the other underlying bill, the initial bill that we thought we would be debating under this rule before this other mysterious bill appeared out of nowhere and came to Rules Committee. This was a bill that did follow regular order in the Intelligence Committee, and while a number of amendments that are meaningful are included in this rule, several of the most meaningful amendments that truly would have addressed the privacy concerns with regard to CISPA are not allowed under this rule. CISPA asks Americans to once again to make a false choice between security and liberty. Now, we all agree on both sides of the aisle, Americans in general, that cybersecurity is an important issue that needs to be addressed. That's why it's critical that we get information sharing correct. This bill in its current form before us is an unprecedented, sweeping piece of legislation that would waive every single privacy law ever enacted in the name of cybersecurity. It would even waive the terms of service, supersede the terms of service that most American consumers, American people believe that they're entering a contract with a provider of a website or service of their choice. That information, without any safeguards, would be shared to the government. As a former tech entrepreneur myself, I know very well how important cybersecurity is. Frankly, it's something that I've never thought we could rely on the government to do for us, and I think a lot of tech companies feel the same way. But that doesn't mean that in the effort for expediency, we should give up our privacy rights and liberties to protect online networks. And while I appreciate the efforts the sponsors of the bill have made to move the bill slightly in a direction that people can have more comfort with, they haven't gone nearly far enough to ensure that customers' private information remains that, just private. There's nothing in this bill to stop companies from sharing their private information with every branch of the government, including secret, unaccountable branches, including the military. And allowing the military or NSA to spy on American citizens on American soil goes against every principle that this nation stands for. A lot has been made of saying, it's optional. Well, it may be optional for the corporations to share information, but is it optional for their users whose information they have, who entered a specific terms of service, to have that information shared without their consent? In many cases, under a terms of service agreement, the users may in fact be the owners of the information. The company that it's hosted on may in fact merely be a host or provider, but again, outside of any legal process, this gives that company with its hosting or providing the ability to share wholesale information that can include health records, that can include firearm registration information, that can include credit card information, that can include account information, that can include political information, with secret government authorities. Now, we have government authorities that have the responsibility and are charged with keeping America safe on American soil, namely the Department of Homeland Security, the FBI. They've worked hard over decades to strike a fine balance between protecting our liberties and security. The military and the NSA are unaccustomed to that balance. That's why, even within the military, many from DoD have expressed opposition to this bill. Eric Rosenbach, the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Cyber Policy within DoD, said that a civilian agency, and not an agency within DoD, should be responsible for securing the domestic civilian Internet. According to Mr. Rosenbach, quote, "It's almost certainly not the right approach for the United States of America to have a foreign intelligence focus on domestic networks doing something that throughout history has been a domestic function," end quote. So not only will the military NSA be able to receive private information if CISPA passes, but they'll be able to use it for almost any justification. Now, while ostensibly a cybersecurity bill, CISPA allows information sharing, quote, "for the protection of national security," end quote. A broad and undefined category that can include practically everything under the sun. Is a Tea Party activist a threat to national security? Is a communist activist a threat to national security? The danger that this can be used for political oppression and to stifle political speech is very real under this bill. In addition, because of the immunity clauses of this bill, there's no incentive at all for companies to withhold their customers' sensitive private information. Companies are exempted from any liability for violating their own terms of service and sharing information with secret government agencies. In fact, given the high compliance costs for this sort of sharing, CISPA actually incentivizes companies to dump all their information on the government so they can take advantage of this blanket immunity that this bill includes. This legislation also has glaring omissions when it comes to the nation's future capacity to be competent at cybersecurity. The bill lacks adequate support and direction for paths that can actually improve the cybersecurity of our nation. Training in the pipeline for cybersecurity experts, including STEM programs in our K-12 schools and computer science, embedding cybersecurity and computer science, and providing scholarships and ways that students can attain the highest levels and enter public service to support the cybersecurity of the nation. Mr. Speaker, there should be an open rule for both of the underlying bills to give members of this House across the ideological spectrum the opportunity to address the deficiencies in both these bills. Now, we've heard from supporters of the cybersecurity bill that privacy concerns are overblown. Trust us, they've said. Republicans say, trust big government bureaucrats, trust anonymous intelligence officers to use that information responsibly. Well, under this bill, we have no choice but to trust them, because the bill imposes no serious limitation on what corporations or secret government agencies can do with our private information. It's outrageous to have a closed rule on the student interest loan bill, a bill that no member of this body, Democrat or Republican, has had any opportunity to amend, and it is also outrageous to not allow a full discussion of the thoughtful amendments brought forth by members of both parties that would remedy some of the very severe deficiencies in the cybersecurity bill.